totally analytics calling that play? Are they so tied to
Well,
the book now? They're going to say that's the plan. No question.
well, that's if I hear one more coach in a post game interview say that's what the analytics say, it's like, okay, fire that guy, because analytics does not make a football coach. Actually,
It,
being involved in the game and feeling it, you got to feel it.
Using your brain.
actually, that perfectly. If you do, you all want to move on to another game that perfectly ties into what
yes.
Lugs is talking about.
Yes.
Bengals versus Ravens.
Yeah,
Bengals versus Ravens is totally what Lugs is talking about, where I think they overthought themselves. Because here was a game, both defenses were playing well. They both played well. I mean, the final score was 19-17. So like both defenses, you can't ask if you keep team under 20 points, that's good.
That's a
good
W.
How the rules are situated. And on top of it, the thing that helped the Bengals defense that was playing well, Lamar was off his game. There was a 4th and 3 where he missed Tylan Wallace.
Yeah,
that would have put them up 17-10. And again, I know I'm being an apologist for him, but like he really misses Hollywood Brown, who they traded to the Arizona Cardinals, and then also Bateman, who's injured, just because he has Mark Andrews. Duvernay's solid, but I just don't think he has enough receiving weapons around him to really make certain defenses pay. And to be fair, the Bengals, they lost T. Higgins early in the game, and just the combination of him and Chase give defenses fits. And when it's only one of them, they can do a good job of containing them because as great as Chase is, they were able to hold him to 50 yards receiving. But again, this ties into what Luke said. Zach Taylor's play calling on the one drive where they had it, I believe the score was 10-13, and they had it first down or goal to go from the 1. Their second play from goal to go from the 1, they did an end around to Tyler Boyd.
Yep. Yep.
And to be fair, I believe it was Peters or it was Humphreys. I forget. They sniffed it out. Sack. 12-yard loss. Luckily, they were able to then hit Chase to get it back to 4th and 1. And instead of kicking the field goal, which would have tied it up 13-13, and particularly it was deep into the game. So you kind of going back to what Lugs is saying, you're getting a feel for how this game is. This is a kicker's duel. And even though they have the best kicker ever, obviously Evan McPherson is very good. So like if you're going to go toe-to-toe with Tucker, McPherson's not a bad guy to have on your side. They do this shovel pass play that I know the Chiefs have had success with. But again, you go back and watch that. There were 2 Ravens there sniffing it out. They saw it
horrible
jump.
Horrible.
And again, you hate to say it, but that cost them the game.
True.
Yeah, it's well, that's why we watch, to be frustrated. It's almost getting like golf anymore. How frustrated are you after all the games are played? But anyway, it's yeah, I got to give Andy Reid credit because, first of all, they got a massive amount of draft picks, and I mean, they got everything. And he has picked up guys that are really good players. They're going to fit into the offense. And you can tell they do different setups for each game. You can tell offensively they're doing different stuff all the time. So it keeps other defenses off. And it's almost like Patrick Mahomes. I was not particularly enamored, but he was down 17 points in a professional football game. His demeanor never changed. Sidearm, underarm, hop pass, skip pass, whatever. He gets it done. I think given that same situation, like say if the Packers had been down 17 points, I don't think Rodgers would have been able to bring it back. Rodgers can beat up on bad football teams, but when they get down, you can tell by his body language, he just wimps out. Patrick Mahomes is the guy, and we'll see the magic will happen with Kansas City and Buffalo. That's going to be the game to watch. Say that's your AFC championship.
So Rodgers can beat up on bad teams, but he couldn't beat up on the New York Football Giants, could he?
Hey, talking about coaches, I think Brian
Yes.
Daboll is for real.
I agree.
Plus, they just said, hey, you know this guy over here, Saquon Barkley? Say hello to him because you're going to see him again in about 3 seconds. And they just kept ramming it down their throats,
Yep.
man. It was wild.
Yep. Threw
It's
a little
like,
wildcat at him, even. Little wildcat.
I think that was the most impressive thing about it was the Giants. I mean, they just played sound football and they have such limited weapons. I mean, Barkley, he's been injured these last few years, but he again kind of shows what he showed early in his career in the NFL, that he is that unicorn running back. He can run and have these big explosive plays. He's an excellent receiver. Their first touchdown drive was set up by a direct snap from the 40, and he got 40 yards out of it. And that set up Bellinger, their tight end, for a touchdown. And then their last touchdown drive was set up by a 40-yard crossing route. Because, again, kind of like what you're talking about, the two of their better players are probably Barkley and Burita. So they'll put both the running backs out there. So Burita was in the back with Daniel Jones. And actually Barkley lined up at wide receiver, ran a crossing route, and then got 40 yards. And then he scored on that drive where he had a direct snap, and then he ran it to the edge for the touchdown. And we've talked about, again, I know we like to come off as haters on the Packers, but I mean we've done this for a few years. We've said that they're winning the North. Like we talk about them when they're legitimate. I think even like honest Packer fans look at this team and look, can they make the playoffs? Yes, but I think like we've already said, if they get in the playoffs, they're one and done because their rookie receivers, they will get better, I think. Yeah. But Dobbs is not going to turn into Devontae, and Watson's not going to turn into Jordy over this single year.
Jordy, there's her name. There you go. Yeah.
So, I mean, when Cobb is your best receiver in this game, he had 99 receiving. He hasn't had an 800-yard receiving year since 2019. I was
going to say he's about 47 years old now, too, isn't he?
I'm not hating on Randall Cobb. I'm just saying this is the danger in Randall Cobb being your best wide receiver at like 5 weeks into the season. And you just look at their run defense, again, Packers teams of years past can get away with it because Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and some of his other weapons on offense, they could boat race teams. They could get out to such a huge lead because they do have talent in terms of pass rushing. The problem is this offense is never going to get too far away from teams. So this run defense is always going to be a problem against any opponent they go against, any of them.
So, Lugs, why don't the Packers run the ball? Are we going to look back on this year and say, man, they wasted a year with the gifted Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I'd say the gifted Aaron Jones and Dillon, A.J. Dillon.
Yep.
I mean, I would just run those guys back to back to back, and that way you're throwing slants and short passes. So these guys, they can do that. They can't do that double out and up in the time that Rodgers needs them. But yeah, they're wasting those two guys' running careers.
And I'll be honest, this is the last thing I'll add in terms of this game. I know this sounds ridiculous, and this probably is, but I honestly think Aaron Jones is their best talent who can play wide receiver. And I know, like, again, you're going to be ridiculed as a coach. I think you just kind of line up Aaron Jones as a wide receiver and have A.J. Dillon be your main back. I just think Aaron Jones is like the only guy they have who can maybe be a receiver who has juice. None of these other guys have juice, or if they have juice, like Watson, the rookie, he's so far behind. He missed so much training camp. He's not going to get up to speed this year. So,
and I just
I think you're right that Aaron Jones could be their Deebo Samuels.
Yes.
But let's be honest. Matt LaFleur, he's about on a level with McCarthy as far as imagination. I mean, seriously. Yeah, it's just like I just am not impressed.
Lugs,
I'm
he's
not
like
impressed.
41-2 in his first 3 years in the league. What are you not impressed with, man? What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Yeah, but he's playing nobodies. I mean,
I-
he's guaranteed what,
Woo!
8 wins or six wins always, and then you're going to play the Texans, the Jags, so they're guaranteed 8 wins a year no matter what. Just because
Oh,
they're,
man.
it's so bad. But
And I just
anyway.
want to say, doesn't Daniel Jones, okay, either A, he's a G.I. Joe lookalike, or you remember that old show, you'll both pull this one off. Remember Rat Patrol?
Ooh,
Does he not
that's
look like he just came off the set and took off his helmet?
Yeah. Well, you know what? As long as he can hand that ball off to Saquon Barkley, boom. What more do you need?
All right, let's do a little sports of yesteryear, and we'll come back and do some more of this here stuff. What do you say?
All right.
Here we go. Here comes your big open for our sports of yesteryear. Lugs does extensive research with our team of interns. We don't have any, but he tries anyway to bring us sports of yesteryear. Here he is now. Go ahead.
All right. 1853. John Morrissey wins the heavyweight boxing title when his opponent, Yankee Sullivan, leaves the ring after 36 rounds to slug Morrissey's fans. 1916 Baseball World Series. Red Sox beat Brooklyn Robins, never heard of them, 4-1 at Braves Field to clinch the series 4-1 and retain the title. Okay, our international folks, listen up. 1952, Hanif Mohammed completes twin cricket centuries for Pakistan versus North Zone India, 121 to 109, no outs. 1968, Enriqueta Basilio, Mexican track and field athlete, becomes first woman to light Olympic flame at 19th Summer Olympics in Mexico City, Mexico. 1979, Boston Celtics guard Chris Ford scores the first three-point basket in NBA history in the first quarter of a 114-106 win versus Houston at Boston Garden. The game also marks the debut of Larry Bird.
Whoa.
And this one right here, this is just for the Dog Man. Dog Man, 1992, Bret Hitman Hart beats Rick Nature Boy Flair in the then WWF heavyweight title bout. Yay! That's it for sports of yesteryear.
Woohoo! Anytime we can get wrestling talk on the show, it's a good show. No kidding. Ric Flair.
It was a big moment. You're talking about one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and Ric Flair. Coordinating and a kind of legitimizing Bret the Hitman Hart, who came from the Hart or the Hart Dungeon from Stu Hart. It's a wonderful.
I thought you were going to say the Hart Foundation.
He was in the Hart Foundation. He was in the Hart Foundation. Jimmy Hart was their manager, so he was part of the Hart Foundation.
We've lost control of the show. Okay,
all right.
Back to NFL talk. What other games did we miss in this little? It was an action-packed week.
Do we want to start with a game that was actually entertaining purposely, or a game that was entertaining unintentionally?
Either one, yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna start with what began week 5. Colts versus Broncos.
Yes.
I just want to say Broncos are a mess.
And the final score was what on that game?
It was 12-9.
Yeah.
It was 12-9, and it went into overtime.
Yeah. A partial score, 12-9.
The overtime is 10 minutes long, and it got down to, I believe, the last drive of the Broncos ended with like 3 minutes left. So they were 7 minutes into an overtime. And the final score was 12-9. Anyway, I just want to say, Broncos are a mess. Even like a positive play, one of the big plays, Wilson's 51-yard completion to Sutton. He runs into another receiver in Washington. So clearly one of them's running the wrong route. And they're in the same area, so two defenders and the ref collide. So it should have counted for more yardage for Sutton. He had to overcome 4 bodies around him. But like I said, like that just tells you, going back to Lugs' point, they're clearly not being coached well. And again, I know I come off as an apologist for Russ Wilson. I'm not. Because that first pick that he threw, I have no idea what the hell it was supposed to be. He